Gotta catch 'em all is the catchphrase of the Pokemon franchise, but what if we couldn't catch any of them? Today, I wanted to test exactly that by seeing if I could beat Pokemon Black without catching a single Pokemon. That, along with the rule set on screen, should make this run extremely difficult, and it also ensures if I lose any of my limited number of Pokemon, they'll be gone for good. That's enough talk though, as it's time for me to pick my first Pokemon in this box from Professor Junifer. She gives me the choice at either Oshawott, Snivy, or Tepig, but to be honest, the easy decision is Oshawott. Now usually Tepig is the best choice, but because of the gift Pokemon that I get later, if I choose Tepig, I'll actually get walled in the middle of the game. So I pick this cute little otter and he immediately shows off some flaws by losing against my second rival. It's alright though, because in attempt 2, I get an Oshawott with some better IVs and I actually make it past these first two fights. Oshawott gets the nickname Blueberry and has a special attack increasing nature, which is solid. Moving on to Route 1, I meet up with Professor Junifer, who gives me one of the most useless tutorials I've ever had. Once I'm in the first town, I meet up with N, who gets into a battle with me. That fight was harder than it should have been, and that's my fault, as throughout a lot of this run, I ended up being under-leveled due to how much I focused on EVs. No, not EVs like the Pokemon, I'm talking about effort values, which you get after knocking out any Pokemon. These are gonna allow me to increase my stats, and they won't really matter too much in the early game since I can't get that many of them, but as we get further, they definitely will. As I progress, I defeat Bianca, then head into the Dream Yard where I can get my next Pokemon, Pansear. Strawberry has a neutral nature and is one of the key members of this run, but I'll get into why later. For now, I go to defeat Charon, but with this fire type on my team, his Snivy is not a problem. With that, he hands me some Oran Berries and I head inside the first gym to fight Silent. He leads the fight with Lillipup, who pretty quickly gets sprayed away by a handful of water guns from my Oshawott. Next up is his level 14 Pansage, and for this, I'm forced to swap into Strawberry, who's only level 10. Sadly for him, it really doesn't matter that I'm 4 levels beneath, since my Incinerates are super effective and his Vine Whips aren't at all. With that, I earn my first gym badge, and after getting the HM for Cut, I can head to the Dream Yard to stop Team Plasma. These guys are a bunch of weirdos, as they won't stop slamming into this Munna trying to get their hands on some Dream Mist. Once they're defeated, Getsis appears, and this is the scariest battle in the entire game. Make sure you stick to the end of this one because I think I had the craziest battle you'll have ever seen. That's not a joke, it was insane. Moving on from that to Route 3, I find myself in another rival battle, and with my Pansear, I quickly take care of it. I then find out Team Plasma stole some little girl's Pokemon, so I head to Wellspring Cave to fight them. They aren't too hard to go up against, and the cave that they brought me to is incredibly useful, so I honestly should be thanking them. Once I get the TM Thief and give this little girl her Pokemon back, she hands me a couple of heal balls. I obviously can't use these balls to catch anything, so I go ahead and sell them and buy some repels. Using these in Wellspring Cave, I can run back and forth until eventually I find some dust clouds. These clouds have a chance at giving me specific types of gems, and if you don't know what they do, it's essentially just additional damage. They only work once per battle, but honestly, that's all I need. Once I get some of those, I head back to Route 2 and run back and forth in the grass to get myself some attack and speed EVs. Doing this causes me to encounter a whole bunch of Pokemon, and I'm sure later on in this video, we won't find a shiny this way. Right? Regardless, I still get my team up to level 17 where I evolve my Oshawott into Duat and get the move Yawn on my Pansear. Heading into Nacrane City, I find N again and we get into another battle. Unfortunately for him, my team is way better than it was the first time we faced each other, and from there I can go fight Lenora for my second badge. She leads the fight with Herdier as I bring in Strawberry to go for a Yawn. Herdier then misses a takedown, and on the following turn, we both go for Leers, lowering each other's defenses. That's when my Yawn kicks in and puts Herdier to sleep, so I swap into my Duat on the free turn. I could have set up a focus energy, but since Razor Shell can miss, I'd rather guarantee the KO now. Last is Watchog, and since Herdier just got taken out, she can go for a Retaliate to do huge damage. This does over half, and to make matters worse, I missed a Razor Shell. Thankfully, another Retaliate won't kill unless it gets a crit, so I'm left with 6 HP going for a Razor Shell that actually lands. With Lenora on her last legs, I swap into my Pansear and go for a Bite, and that right there earns me my second gym badge. As soon as I collect that, Team Plasma storms into the gym and they steal this Dragonite head. I'm not really sure how they stole it since it looks like it's about 10 feet off the ground, but hey, I guess they have hops. Either way, I need to go defeat them, so I chase them through Pinwheel Forest until I defeat all of their members. Lenora then gives me a Moonstone, which is completely useless. I mean, at least I can sell it for more repels. Once I make it to Castelia City, I can get an actually useful evolution stone, and that's the Firestone from this random doctor or scientist. I don't know who this guy is. Regardless, he was super useful, but before I use the stone, I go ahead and talk to Iris, Bianca, and Berg. While we were talking, this Team Plasma member accidentally stumbles upon us and leads us directly to their base, so they're probably gonna get fired for that. We then go ahead and retrieve Bianca's Muna, and after my Panseer learns the move Flame Burst, I evolve him into Simisear. Simisear has the perfect matchup into Berg's bugs and starts by getting a one-shot against his Whirlipede. Next was Dwebble, and even though it wasn't super effective, it's still O-code. His ace is Leavanny, who got absolutely incinerated by a 4-time super effective Flame Burst, and with that, I've earned my 3rd badge and can continue on towards Nimbasa City. To get there, I've got to go through 2 rival battles, but since they're the exact same way they went before, I'm not going to comment much on them. I did get a little bit scared in my fight with Charon as he went for pursuit as I was trying to switch out, but thankfully he hit himself with confusion, so it wasn't a problem. Now that I'm on Route 4, I can get a lot of moves as well as a few items that could help me out for my next gym. The most important item I got by far was the Plume Fossil, as if I resurrect it, it can become an Archon. Knowing this, I head back to Castelia as quickly as possible, and after going through this dark alley, I get Flash, and then just continue forward to Nacre City. Once I'm there, I get my Archon, nickname it Cloudberry, and then find out it has a neutral nature, which isn't that bad. That basically completes everything I had in Route 4, so I can head straight into Nimbasa now, where I immediately find myself face to face with Team Plasma. This is one very quick battle, and after chasing them to the amusement park, I find N there waiting for me. We then go on an oddly romantic Ferris wheel ride where we are way too close together for him to be telling me he's the king of Team Plasma. If we got into a fight in a cramped space about 50 feet in the air, I'm sure it would have been bad for the both of us, so I don't know what he was thinking. Once we're grounded, we do get into a battle, but since most of his Pokemon are weak to water and or dying, I just easily deal with them. With the stress of that situation weighing me down, I decide to go to the musical. I make my Duat look dapper, which makes me feel a lot better, but then after leaving the musical, I see Bianca's dad is trying to make her go home from the journey that we set out on. And that just makes me feel even greater than I did before. One less rival battle would have been great, but then Elisa had to come by and ruin my life. She's the entire reason why I had to pick Oshawott, because if I don't have a Panseer for this fight, I just straight up lose. Thanks to the EVs I've been gathering, Simisear is able to outspeed both Emolgas and the Zebstrika at the end of Elisa's team. That being said, I start this battle by going for 2 consecutive workups as Emolga swaps out with Volt Switch twice in a row. Emolga has 4 different moves: Volt Switch, Aerial Ace, Quick Attack, and Pursuit, and since 2 of those moves are super effective against grass and water types, that's the reason why I had to pick Panseer. Panseer not taking super effective damage is the only reason I was able to set up these 2 workups, and by doing so, I can go for a Flame Burst which will one-shot the first Emolga. The second Emolga experiences the same fate, and the final Mon is Zebstrika. At +2, it was a nearly guaranteed KO with Dig, but I did add the Ground Gem just to be safe. Now that she's been taken care of, I can head towards the 5th gym leader, which is Clay. On my way to the drawbridge, Charon battles me, and if I had to be honest, the battle I have after against the preschoolers was probably harder. With the bridge down, I go into Driftvale City and just sit here and listen to the theme for a little while, just to relax. Afterwards, I head into the cold storage where I find Team Plasma all cuddled up in the corner of the storage crate. Once they're defeated, Clay ends up arresting all of them, which honestly was really impressive to see, since it seems like nobody else in the entire game cares about what Team Plasma does. Once I pick up a few items, I find out Getsus has essentially just bailed them out, and I get myself ready for my next battle against Clay. This is the first battle where Cloudberry can actually get some action, and that's who I decide to lead with as Clay brings out his Crocorock. For some reason, he doesn't have Intimidate, which means I can go for a simple Acrobatics to one-shot. Next is Palpitoad, and for this one, I don't even need a gem, I just straight up Oko, and with that, I'm on to the final Pokemon, Excadrill. Excadrill is a much bigger issue, so I swap into my Duat, who eats a Rock Slide on the switch in. It does a little less than half, and I have to hope that the next one won't crit, or else I might lose here. Instead of going for Rock Slide, Excadrill set up Hone Claws, which initially I thought was a good thing, but that was before I left him with a sliver remaining after a Water Pulse. Thankfully, I do know that Clay is now gonna heal, so I swap into my Simisear on that turn. Simisear was then able to go for a gem boosted, super effective Flame Burst, and thankfully, that did just enough to kill. With that badge, the level cap moves up to 35, which is just so close to my Samurai. Regardless, I then head into a rival battle against Bianca, and thanks to my Duat, this fight fight wasn't too hard. Unfortunately for me, it's after this battle that the worst situation possible happens. As I'm running through the grass trying to figure out what EVs I can get here, I ended up finding a shiny Tranquil. This is the most unlucky shiny I've ever found because yes, it is a shiny, but the run I'm doing specifically restricts catching it. Sadly, that means I have to take it down, so I do and try to continue on in the game without crying. If you thought that shiny was lucky, then you haven't seen anything yet, as later on in this video, I see something that only has a 1 in 1 million chance of happening. I'm not even exaggerating, the full odds are on screen now. To get to that, I've got to move forward in the game, and that involves going through Chargestone Cave where I meet up with N again. He tells me that Team Plasma's been waiting for me, and once I fight those guys, I go up against him too. Thankfully, he's actually extremely easy to deal with since he only uses Pokemon from Chargestone Cave, and that means my Simisear is super effective against 3 members of his team. Past him is Mistralton City, and this is where the move deleter is, and I use him to get cut off my Duat. Skyla and her really dumb looking hair meet me at the top of Celestial Tower where she tells me to ring this bell. I could have made a really bad segue here telling you to subscribe and ring the notification bell or whatever, but I won't. Instead, I'll do it this way so it looks like I'm making an actual joke. With all that done, I can start to prepare for Skyla, and this looks like it's going to be a really hard fight. Her Swanna has Bubble Beam, which is super effective against my Rock type, and Simisear as well. There is a way to get around my weaknesses though, and that's by teaching Simisear the move Thief. By going back to these shaking grass spots in Pinwheel Forest, there's a chance I find myself a Pansear. Pansear has a 5% chance of carrying a Pasho Berry, which makes it so water type moves aren't as effective. Eventually, I did get my berry, and then I could slam my face into this wall so I could start my battle against Skyla. She leads with Swoobat as I do with Archin. Initially, Swoobat goes for an Amnesia, which really doesn't do much as I was going for a Crunch that's super effective. This was able to take the Swoobat down and bring in the Swanna, who started by going for a Bubble Beam. Thanks to that Pasho Berry, I survived at 46, which is just above my defeatist range. That allowed me to go for a super powerful Acrobatics, which one-shot the Swanna and brought me onto the final Pokemon, Unfezant. Unfezant doesn't really have anything that strong, but after a critical hit Razor Wind, my Duat was left with 4 HP. Thankfully, my Simisear was able to clean up, and with that, I earned badge number 6. After the gym battle, I go ahead and evolve Duat into Samurott, then head towards Twist Mountain, and as I'm doing that, I talk to my mom for the first time in I don't even know how long. I quickly hang up the phone though, as I've got a battle against Charon really soon. Because of the rain, this battle's a lot scarier than it should have been, but I got through it just fine after spamming workups on Unfezant. With the fight finished, Alder jumps off this cliff and breaks his leg. And this guy just can't stop doing that in every game he's in. He then gives me the HM for Surf, which is the best water type move my Samurott can learn without any drawbacks. With 95 base power, I storm through Twist Mountain until I eventually make it to Icarus City. Once I'm here, there's actually only one thing I need to do, and that's challenge the 7th gym leader. Since the level cap is 39, while I was going through the gym challenge, I was able to evolve my Archin into Archeops. Time's up for Bryson as we get into our battle, and he leads with Vanillish as I send in my improved team member, Cloudberry. By going for a gem boosted rock throw, I can easily take a one-shot, and this leads into the ace Pokemon Beartick. Once Strawberry's on the field, I can go for a Flame Burst that melts Beartick and brings out the final Pokemon Cryogonal. This was a little bit of a slow burn as I ran out of Flame Burst PP, but eventually after swapping into my Samurott, I was able to take him down. That wins me a quick gym battle and means I can continue on with the story towards Dragon Spiral Tower. This is the start of a lot of Team Plasma stuff where they have me going back and forth between a few different places in Unova. They jump me in Dragon Spiral Tower, meet me at the bottom of the Desert Resort, and I've got to go all the way to Nacrene City where I can get myself the Light Stone. This stone isn't useful to me at all, but it does let me progress the story and I can get into another battle with Bianca. Thankfully, her team has never been easier as my Samurott was able to sweep with no issues. As I'm going to the next city, I find Getsis, who just talks to me for no reason. I tell him to buzz off, then head into Opelucid City. Once I'm there, I find him again, this time spewing a bunch of propaganda. Come on, man, nobody's joining your side. I'm pretty sure you just want to rule the world, so yeah. After that, I was told to meet up with Iris, but instead of doing that, I head back to Nuvema Town. By using Fly to get there and Surf on Route 1, I can go to Route 17, and on this route, I can actually get another gift Pokemon. The reason I didn't get it sooner was because it's kinda useless. The Pokemon found in this egg is Larvesta, which evolves into a Volcarona, and that would have been really good on my team, but unfortunately, Volcarona is beyond the final level cap of the game. That means Cranberry won't be evolving, and since his base stats stats are relatively low, the only thing I can do is use him as fodder. This next battle is against the Dragon-type gym leader, and I might have to utilize him right away if this Druddigon becomes a problem. I won't really be able to tell if he is until we're in the battle, so I get my team up to the level cap and challenge Drayden for my 8th and final badge. He brings in his Fracture as I start with Cloudberry and go for an Acrobatics that one-shots. This leads into the scary Pokemon Druddigon, who's only really a threat because of my ability to Defeatist. If I get knocked below half, my stats are terrible, and since I don't want to risk anything, I swap into my Samurott. Samurott's equipped with a Rocky Helmet I found earlier and gets hit by a critical hit Revenge on the switch in. Since my Samurott is faster, I can go for an Encore, which will ensure Druddigon keeps going for Revenge. This will get me a little bit more chip damage before I have to switch back into Archeops and get the guaranteed KO with Acrobatics. With that, I'm well above half going into the final Pokemon, Haxorus. On the first turn, Haxorus actually survives in Acrobatics and gets brought down to 1 HP remaining. He then sets up a Dragon Dance, which could have been scary if I didn't know Drayden was going to heal. At this point, it was only a matter of time before I got a higher damage roll that would KO the Haxorus, and with that, I earned my final gym badge. This brings me that much closer to my battle against Ghetsis, and now we've only got a few things left. One of those things is to stomp my rival right outside of Victory Road, and after I do that, I can go straight to the Pokemon League. Before challenging the Elite Four, I head back to Mistralton City to make sure my movesets are perfect going into these upcoming battles. Since the Elite Fours all counted as the same thing, as soon as I start, I'm able to go over the level cap of 50 so long as I don't pass Ghetsis' level of 54. After getting all the items I need and bringing my team up to the level cap, I'm able to start the Elite Four by going up against Chantal. She leads with Cofagrigus, who has the move Will-O-Wisp, so instead of bringing my physical attacker, I send in Samurott. Samurott nearly KO'd with a Surf, but unfortunately, Cofagrigus was left with a Sliver, then hit me with a Shadow Ball. Chantal then decides to heal, allowing me to go for a free Surf, which got a critical hit and KO'd. Next up is Jellicent, who has Energy Ball, and since I know that's what she's gonna go for, I swap into Cloudberry. After a boosted Acrobatics one-shots, my Archeops ends up learning the move Rock Slide, which is incredibly useful for the next Pokemon, Chandelure. This is the ace Pokemon, and so long as I don't miss, I should be able to do some good damage. Thankfully, I don't, and I one-shot, bringing me onto the final Pokemon, Golurk, who goes down to a single Acrobatics. That defeats Chantal and brings me onto my next battle against Caitlyn, where I'll have to get a little bit lucky. Megahorn only has 85 accuracy, so it's something I really don't want to rely on. That being said, Caitlyn leads with Reuniclus as I send in Cloudberry. Reuniclus has a ton of good moves, including Thunder, which will one-shot both Cloudberry and Samurott. The only safe move is to go for a U-turn switch into Larvesta, and he actually ends up surviving with 30 HP. Since Reuniclus is incredibly slow and that U-turn did a lot of damage, I can go for a Bug Bite to finish her off. This at least gives Larvesta a KO before Sigilyph gets sent in. Against Sigilyph, I really don't have any good options, and me switching could cause me to lose this battle. That being said, it's time for Cranberry to go as an Ice Beam takes him down. This sacrifice was very strategic as I needed it to get a free swap into Cloudberry. I then have to bank on a Rock Slide not missing, and thankfully it doesn't, which sends me on to Gothitelle. Against Gothitelle, I go for an Acrobatics, knowing there's a slight chance I get crit by Thunderbolt. This leaves Gothitelle with a Sliver, and thankfully I don't get crit. From there, I finish her off with a U-turn and swap into my Samurott on the final Pokemon, Musharna. Musharna has a lot of special attack, which makes me reluctant to stay in, but I really don't have a choice. Thanks to a pair of Mega Horns and a Surf, I was able to defeat Caitlyn, and with that, I've won what could have been my hardest Elite Four battle. Now I move on to what should be an easier battle against Grimsley, where he leads with his Scrafty, and I go for a super effective Acrobatics. You can probably assume what happened as the next Pokemon is Bisharp, and I go for a U-turn switch into my Simisear. After not taking too much from a Metal Claw, I go for a super effective Flame Burst that takes the KO and brings out Crocodile. Crocodile isn't something I'm worried about as I can swap into Cloudberry on the Earthquake. This allows me to not only avoid taking damage, but also go for an Acrobatics, which blows away the Crocodile as well as the following Pokemon, Liepard. This last member is Marshall, and for this, I wasn't worried at all as he leads with fighting types and my Acrobatics has been really good against those guys. I was a little bit worried when he brought in Sawk as it has the ability Sturdy and the move Stone Edge, but after going for a U-turn switch into my Samurott, I was no longer scared. His last two Pokemon are just flying type fodder, and with that, I can move on to the final battles of this game against N and Ghetsis. This is exactly what you guys have been waiting for as Team Plasma decides to destroy all of the Champion's Palace. They did it in the most destructive way possible too, as this debris could have really hurt somebody. Anyways, after going to the top of Team Plasma's new place, I figure out something terrible about this challenge. Once my Lightstone activates and Reshiram gets spawned in, there is no way I can get around catching him. I did everything here, trying to find secret ways of bypassing this rule or maybe even just killing the Reshiram, but nothing worked. Unfortunately, I was forced to catch him gym to progress the game, but regardless, even with that, I still need to get through my crazy fight with Getsis to complete this run. That being said, I push through this and get into my battle with N. He leads with Zekrom as I'm forced to bring out my Reshiram, but to get around this, I throw timer balls over and over again until Reshiram goes down. From there, I actually start my battle with Simisear by going for a yawn on Zekrom as he then sets up a light screen. On the following turn, a Fusion Bolt takes me down to 35 remaining as I start to set up workups over and over. Once I'm at +2, I go for a dig, and with my ground gem, I do just enough damage to KO the Zekrom. Next up is Caracosta, who has Aqua Jet, which is super effective. Knowing that that's what I'll go for, I swap into my Samurott and hit him with an Encore. This forces him to hit me with not very effective damage, and by going for a few surfs, I can take the Caracosta out. That brings in Kling Clang, and since he has Thunderbolt, there's really not any good moves I have. The best option I could think of was sacrificing my Simisear so I can get a free switch into Cloudberry. With Cloudberry, I go for a gem boosted dig that takes down the Kling Clang, and after a handful of different moves, I'm able to deal with the rest of N's team. That being said, it's time to fight Getsis. I allow his Cavagrigus to take out Reshiram so we can have a fair fight. I then make sure I'm leading with Cloudberries. I can go for an Acrobatics, and it doesn't even need to be gem boosted to get a critical hit and one shot. The next Pokemon is Bisharp, and to be safe, I go for a U-turn switch and get a critical hit with that as well. This allows Samurott to come in and go for a Surf, which knocks out the Bisharp. Unfortunately for Samurott though, he no longer has a use, so I kinda just have to let him go down when Bouffalant gets sent in. This puts all of my hopes and dreams at winning this run on the shoulders of Archeops. Once he's sent in, I can easily take out the Bouffalant since he was already low. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about Seismitoad as its defenses are way too high for me to one-shot with anything I have. Somehow though, my Archeops locks in and gets a critical hit which takes down the Seismitoad. I'll switch it over to my live reaction because you have to hear the rest of this fight. Unbelievable. 3 crits in this battle so far. There's no reason I should have gotten this far. I think Hydreigon just kills me though. I don't know if I have anything to... I mean, I obviously go for Acrobatics, but I don't think that's gonna do enough damage. It got to a 4th! Are you kidding me? What are the odds on that? There's no way, man. And all that to die to a Wild Charge in the end. What's the best move here? Rock Slide, I think? I did not think I was gonna make it this far. I just didn't. I think Rock Slide is the only thing I can do, to be honest. Flinch. 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 Another! Oh my god! Oh my god! I don't believe it. Are you kidding me? There has to be like a game glitch or something. Was that 5? I don't even know what to say. I actually just don't. I actually just don't know what to say. The odds of all that happening is incredibly slim, but the chances specifically are 1 in every 1,118,481. That's only counting the moves I made with Archeops, assuming I did my math right, but I'm pretty sure I did. Regardless, that's an unbelievable way to kinda win this run. I mean, I still did catch that Reshiram. Let me know in the comments if you think I actually won, and if I should do more videos like this in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.